Hello, and welcome to video number 18 in this series exposing the Jesuit Vatican shadow empire that rules the earth today. As I was working my way through a whole range of issues related to the Jesuit Vatican controlled world system we live in under today, I felt that it would be pertinent to clarify some major points about what is true and untrue in this reality. What people think is true often bears no relation to what actually is true. I continually see comments people make on social media that indicates a frightening depth of misunderstanding or ignorance about what is happening in our world. Here's some clarification on 5 key misconceptions most people have as to where the human race stands today in this deceptive Luciferian reality. Misconception number 1. People believe history is happening serendipitously, by chance, by accident. In other words, everything just happens by chance without any rhyme or reason. There is no grand plan or schema, even though written history indicates the exact opposite. And this is a product of relativism or relativistic theory or relativistic philosophy. It has this effect of making everything just relative to everything else. However, this is false. This understanding about history is a fiction. Nothing could be further from the truth. History consists of consecutive and sometimes contiguous bursts of conquest and expansion in various world theaters over time. And in the case of the biblical chronology, it would be over a period of around 6,000 years. It is the rise and fall of civilizations. These are attempts by individuals or groups to superimpose their ideology onto all peoples and make them subservient. This is key. Not understanding this means you can proceed no further. You are in fact a slave to false notions of history and human activities over millennia and will not understand what is happening today. Will not. Cannot. You must discard what you have learned and start all over again. And this is what I had to do. I had to unlearn many years of higher education. I had to unpack it all. Start again when I started to understand that what I was seeing and what I was reading, what I was putting together did not make sense according to the written history. Misconception number 2. People believe the world today consists of 200 plus autonomous sovereign nations who independently conduct their own affairs in the world but are loosely dependent by virtue of banking or trade systems and affiliations. This is totally false. It's another fiction. And this is perpetrated by the media. But it's totally untrue. Again, nothing could be further from the truth. The formation of the United Nations out of the defunct League of Nations in 1959 put in place for the first time in world history the visible headquarters of the Vatican world government in New York City. Washington, D.C., London, and Rome, however, are the 3 true, invisible centers of Vatican government. This is important to understand. The United Nations is not some benign entity where national representatives meet, have a good old time, and pass into law useless legislation. This is what most people think, that the UN has no teeth. This is just a good old boys club, something like this. All peoples of the world have been living under the New World Order since at least 1959, possibly as early as 1933, when the USA was placed under military rule. That's right, people. The USA has been under military rule since 1933. the Jesuits created the UN to create and enforce programs of enslavement. It's not there for your benefit. And rule the world through those programs. That's why the Pope went there as King of the World. That's right. That's his title, King of the World. Looking like a lamb. Looking like innocent and naive and just an old fuddy-duddy making some nice speech to the UN. No, 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 no. This is the dragon. This is the dragon who appears like a lamb. And he did this in 2015 and addressed all world representatives. He wasn't invited, as he stated. He doesn't need to be invited. That's his government. He's the king. So this is false. And he wasn't giving world leaders a pep talk. Far from it. He was issuing his commands and edicts in the form of a fuddy-duddy speech. And people do not understand this duplicity, this double-sided, Janus nature of the Pope and the Roman Catholic Vatican system. In veiled language, yeah, not directly, veiled, kind of ambiguous talk, he was giving orders to his national dictators as to how things will be, or else. He is the ruler of the greatest criminal cabal the world has ever seen. Mess with it, and you will die, just like millions and millions and millions and millions have in the past. So do not be fooled by the Pope or this Jesuit Vatican system. I'll be doing a video later on what the Pope was really saying to everyone. It is the inverse or opposite of what he actually said. Misconception number 3. People believe all nations are distinct, independently ruled entities in the world, free, ordering their own internal affairs, and answerable to no external authority. This is false, and yet another fiction. The exact opposite is true, and the reality is all nations are registered corporations. They're businesses. And the governments consist of board members with a CEO. That's your prime minister or your president or your monarch. They are CEOs. All appointed by the Jesuit Masonic cabal. Nobody gets into those positions. Nobody gets elected into those positions democratically. No way. That happened. That disappeared a long time ago. And in fact, it was only in place for a short period of time in world history. That's right, people. Governments are appointed by the Luciferian Roman hierarchy, not elected by the people. Nowhere in the world today is anyone elected democratically by the people. Nowhere. All elections are rigged to create an illusion and are just for public theater. Nations are corporations conducting business for the Pope. That's why all people are not prospering as they should be. This world is rich, incredibly wealthy, and everyone should be a king or a millionaire. Everyone. No reason why not. Except for the Jesuit Vatican shadow empire and their stranglehold on all wealth. People are just units of labor, being taxed to death by Rome, causing free enterprise by ordinary people and small businesses to suffer, creating misery, poverty, and conflict everywhere. Roman fascism hates a prosperous, educated middle class and is doing everything in its power to destroy it everywhere, so there remains only a rich elite and a poor working class. Two classes. Only 2. Poverty is being enforced deliberately to foment conflict and crush people into dependency and servitude to fascist dictators, resulting in hopelessness, anger, degradation, violence, and ultimately death. No one is free, and democracy is a fiction. All governments worldwide are ruling bodies enforcing various forms of communism. Remember, the Jesuits invented communism out of medieval Roman Catholic monasticism. These are documented facts, people. If you don't know about it, you can find out. Go and check it out. You'll find out where this idea of communism comes from. It comes from Roman Catholic medieval monasticism. Misconception number 4. The USA is an independent democratic nation and leader of the free world. How many times have we heard that? Leader of the free world. Really? Really? This is false. And yet again, just another fiction perpetrated by the media and education system. The USA is simply the Jesuits' American empire, ruled from Jesuit Georgetown University since at least 1913, when the Jesuits instituted their Federal Reserve private banking system. There has been no democracy or speech free of censorship in the USA for at least 50 years. Everything is controlled in the mainstream media. All elections are rigged and governments are appointed behind the scenes, not elected. The president is just a papal puppet deceiving the people and aiding the dismantling of the Constitution by passing draconian edicts, giving the dictator more and more power over the people. That's right, the US president is a dictator. He's controlled by the Jesuits, but he's the dictator. The US military-industrial complex has been used to wage war against all nations not subservient to the Pope. Have a look through the 20th century and see where the US military has been waging war. So many countries on all continents. Why? To depose governments that were set up by the people. The Pope hates national populist governments because he can't control them. He can't control those governments, you see. He's got to control. He's got to put in his dictators. And so this is why he'll overthrow anyone who's not subservient to Rome. It is another papal sword, that's the American military, is another papal sword, used to further Vatican world government in the 20th century. The American people are living in a democratic illusion, just like most people everywhere. I'm talking specifically here about the USA. Which in reality is a soft communist system that soon will turn totalitarian as the Jesuits dismantle the last vestiges of Christian Protestantism. Christian Protestantism in the USA. Yes, it's the last bastion, big bastion of Christianity. When they get rid of that, darkness will prevail. The USA is the first domino. It's a big one. It's the first domino. When it falls, there will be a quick chain reaction and the world government will appear with force everywhere as if from nowhere. It's ready to go, but it's not here yet because the time is not quite right. Misconception number 5. People believe world government organizations are formed to better the lives and future of all people. This is absolutely false and a misconception actively fostered under the Luciferian socialist guise of government as benefactor. No government is in power to benefit the people. None. Governments are about power, corruption, and status for an elite group of insiders. Organizations like WHO, UNESCO, IMF, World Bank, IPCC, UNHRC, UNISDR, UNICEF, and ICMPD, among many others, are all Vatican-run corporations. All run by the Vatican. For what purpose? For your benefit and mine? No, sir. Never. You can find a complete list under United Nations on Wikipedia. It's extensive. There's many of these organizations. They all report and take orders from the Vatican. They're up to no good. These groups are not working for your or my benefit, but regulate Vatican strategies for the purpose of division and depopulation. That's what's coming. Happening now. It's happening right now under UN Agenda 21 and 30. Yes, all these front groups were set up to carry out Rome's incremental genocide against mankind. The people who manage these agencies are wicked papal stooges, often Jews, or purportedly to be Jews, probably fake Jews, serving the Jesuits, and are not put into position to benefit you or me. They all work for personal gain and to further the Jesuit Masonic agenda. You and I are not recognized as free citizens with God-given rights under God, but as units of labor in the International Roman Corporation. Think about that. If you're listening to me now, you are a unit of labor, and that's all you are to Rome. And when you're finished, and your service is finished, when your productivity is finished, you're disposed of without a thought, without a care. Think about how impersonal and terrible that really is. That's Rome. That's what it thinks about you. All people are property of this company. This is how the Pope looks at his world. Everything is his property. Called Vatican Corporation. To be controlled and aggressively taxed. It's about money. The Vatican is about political control and accumulating wealth. And subservience, ordering and forcing subservience on all people through religion. So we've got this multi-pronged attack from the Vatican on all human beings. This is done to us at the same time the illusion of freedom and democracy and elections is aggressively thrust upon us through all Jesuit media channels in the form of advertising, movies, and news. It is all false, people. It's all a lie. It's depressing, but it's true. People, what I've told you here is nothing but the truth. The Jesuit rabbit hole of deception goes deep, right to the core of all that we have been taught since childhood, exposing Masonic government education as nothing but propaganda and deception. The elite mock us and laugh at our gullibility. They can't believe it's so easy to enslave and fleece senseless people. They've managed to do this to humanity because man, for the most part, has rejected God. That's right. And his commands. Good and godly people aren't easy to deceive or destroy because they are alert to these dangers and move to stop wickedness before it corrupts all of society. God protects godly societies. Today, people everywhere have fallen victim to sin of every kind and have been totally saturated in Luciferian ideologies and lifestyles, worshipping idols of every variety. Modern men and women have become the worst idolaters in history, making gods of anything and everything. Money, business, sex, entertainment, and every kind of hedonistic pleasure. God has sent warning after warning to little avail. So now comes the final judgment. Here it comes. God has allowed the Jesuits to set up their world kingdom under Satan to punish mankind. That's what happens when you ignore God for centuries and centuries and even millennia. People, we are in it. It is all around us, this world system. And bodily, there is no way out. However, the good news is the wicked Luciferians can't control humans spiritually or physically unless you give assent and let them. That's right. When the world beast system is imposed in all its horrible completeness, then the true test will come for every human being. It'll be an individual choice. There are only two choices. Join the beast system for a short time and perish eternally, or resist the system, facing persecution and death with God's promise of eternal life. Think about that. That's the two choices. Jesus Christ is the only way to God and the only way out of this darkness that is falling. God bless you in your search for the truth about all things. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.